So I started a new project and I'm going to build an Adirondack chair. Lisa and I bought a home in Maine that has 4 Adirondack chairs on the shoreline overlooking the cove. And the chairs have seen better days, so I thought I'd replace them. Now this is June of 2026 and I spent $72 for the materials that includes pressure treated lumber, galvanized carriage bolts, nuts and washers, and the deck screws. I went online and I found a website called skiptomyloo.org and I downloaded the free plans. Now, these plans are for personal use only. I'm going to trace out the outline of the pieces onto this 1/4-inch plywood that I will use as templates. If I like the chair, I can then mass produce them here in New Jersey, as much as 4 chairs can be mass produced, and load the pieces flat in the back of my car and drive them up to Maine and do the final assembly up there. I've always wanted to build an Adirondack chair and I'm finally getting around to it. Now here I'm using the same technique I used when I built my canoe. I'm laying down carbon paper and then I'll lay the plans over top of it. Tape one edge down so it doesn't slide around, and I will use a straight edge to trace all of the straight lines. I'll come back and freehand the curved lines, and what I can do when I'm done with this part is take a batten, which is nothing more than a flexible piece of wood, and I can refine those curved lines with that flexible piece of wood. It's a technique that works really well when you're trying to create templates. I've set up the table saw, and what I'm going to do now is take some time to cut this piece down quite a bit. First thing I'm going to do is cut this almost in half. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this pretty much separates this from this. And I want to be able to cut these straight lines on the table saw. That'll give me the most accurate cuts. So it begins by cutting this down so I can manage this piece. Now that I've done that, I can set the fence so that I can cut this piece, this, and this. And that gives me fewer pieces that I'll need to cut with the bandsaw. And again, I've gotten the straightest cut I possibly can on as many pieces as I can. So let me get started with that. create a lot of dust doing this, so I have a fan in the window, and I also have my shop fan, if you will, that I hook up to the machines. I have it just drawing air through a 5-micron filter, so I keep the place relatively dust free. You can't keep it dust free, just look around, you'll see dust everywhere. Speaking of dust, this is a sander, and I'm going to use this and another technique I have to set up on my drill press to allow me to sand to the line that I showed you earlier. And that's where I'm at right now. So that lets me sand right up to the line, and this will allow me to spin. That allows me to right up to the line, and now again I'll go there. This, I'm going to need another tool to get the inside curve. I'll show you that. So this is how I'm going to get the inside corner, or inside curve, I should say. I've already done a lot of this trimming. Let me show you what I'm doing. This is the template that you saw me cut out and sand. And this is the material that I cut out. And you can see that the material is just a little bit bigger than the template. And over here you can see the marking, the blue marking. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim the material to the template. I do that with this router bit. It has a ball bearing down here that will ride along the edge of the template, like this. And then this router bit will trim the material. Let me show you what that looks like. So the bit is not tall enough to do all of the material, so I have to make a second pass. And what I do now is I simply remove the template. Flip the board over, and now I'll run it again and I'll remove this little bit of excess material here. And this goes really fast. Now the advantage of that is that I get a repeatable product every time. And while this particular piece is the center of the chair, and I only have one of them, this is an example where I have two identical pieces. This will be the armrest, and they are exactly the same. That'll work. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. I'm trying to find the mistakes that I'm going to make, the mistakes in the plans, and this is one. So I'll just make a note to myself that the next time I do this, I need to have a scrap to act as a brace. So hopefully that holds as I do this next part. All right, I understand the basics of it now. That makes sense. This goes back to figuring how to do things. I didn't think about this until after I installed the center. I'm installing these so that I have something to rest these on. Show you what I mean. Now I can just go like this. I don't have to hold anything up. I can just set them in. And that's the project, my first Adirondack chair. I really enjoyed making it. It was pretty straightforward, a lot of fun. I just had some confusion with the directions. The directions I was using could have been a little clearer. But all in all, it's a pretty straightforward project. There are some things I'll do differently next time, but they're all minor. I finished this chair and then tried to carry it upstairs with my wife, Lisa. And I have done this with several projects. I honestly don't know how many times I'm going to make this mistake before I figure it out. But we carried the chair out of the workshop without any problem. We carried it up the stairs, and when we got to the top of the stairs, we realized that the chair simply would not fit. So I ended up taking off the right arm of the chair in order to get it through the door. And we got it through the door and into the backyard. Couple of weeks, we'll take it up to Maine and set it next to the cove.